Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are finishing out our top 100 games of all time for 2023. We are well into March, so things have probably radically already changed for the entire top 100. But again, it gives us an excuse to talk about 100 games. And this year, I'm not going to say that we're going to do the top 200 because we never do. It's always like a good idea, but it's like never happens. Might be something I do on my own because that'd probably just be way easier to schedule. But here we are. If we could only pick 10 games, these 10 games would be the ones that we'd pick to stay in our collection forever. And this one's actually kind of all over the place. I have four that rose. I was gonna say new ones. I have four that rose, two that fell, three that stayed the same, and one new one.
I have two new ones, one that stayed the same, two that fell, and I guess five that went up.
I was just gonna say, my math is wrong. I have three that rose. So
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nope, I lied. I just can't. Yep, never mind. Ignore me. Four that rose. Sorry, what was yours?
I had five that rose, two that fell, one stayed the same, and two new ones.
Okay, two new ones. Ooh, that's exciting. Well, let me take a sip of coffee and get to my number 10. All right, my number 10 rose a decent amount into the top 10. It was number 16 last year, number 22 this year, and so it's always been a really good game, and there's been quite a few new iterations of it within the past few years, and this is my favorite version of it. It really just kind of honed everything about this game and just amplified it and made it great. So my number 10 is Great Western Trail, specifically New Zealand. So Great Western Trail has always been in the top 100. It is my highest Alexander Pfister game, and that's why I was saying, like, between Great Western Trail and Maracaibo, I could never decide which one I liked more. And then New Zealand came out, and I'm like, oh, it's this. Like, it's this system. New Zealand just, I mean, it basically comes with the expansion already in the box. Like, there's so much to do in this game, while also still feeling very familiar of the game. Like, it's not just kind of like, hey, get to Kansas City, or in this case, I don't remember the city you're trying to get to, but they didn't just take Great Western Trail and just be like, hey, it's sheep now instead of horses. It's the exact same game. And they really focus on the deck building aspect of the game, and Great Western Trail has always had a little bit of deck building, but this one, like, you can really focus on that because at the beginning of the game you set aside set like special cards that you can pull into your deck. Like, you have your regular market cards, but then you have unique ones that are different every game, and those will radically change kind of how your strategy is going to work while still feeling like Great Western Trail. It wasn't just like a, hey, we put the title line on it, but it has really nothing to do with it, kind of like some pandemic games.
Mm-hmm.
This one is just like, okay, I've played the original, boom, here we are, and what's new about it. So it is fantastic, and I highly, highly recommend. And it helps that it's in New Zealand, so that's just gorgeous. So that is my number 10, Great Western Trail, New Zealand.
Are there any hobbits in it?
You know what? There are not, and I don't think they even put any like tiny references.
Yeah.
You know, you think they would, like, kind of like, because I was playing another game where some of the art looked like the Fellowship, like going to the mountains,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I swear that's a reference. Like, that looks just too much like the Fellowship there. As far as I know, nothing here.
Yeah, this is one I'd like to try because I mean I have Great Western Trail and I've messed with it a little bit,
Hmm.
but I think this one with the deck building stuff and everything would be more my lane, I
Yeah,
think.
I have all three just for completionist sake, but I really like if I were to just kind of like get rid of any, I'd actually get rid of Argentina.
Hmm.
It is too similar to the base game, so it's like I'd like to have the base game with the Rails to the North expansion, and then this one. Even though those two are kind of similar so it's like I don't know. I kind of just like owning all three and just deciding which country
Right.
I want to be in.
Yeah. All right. I'll try it at some point.
Yep, you will. Oh wait, I need to look at the list. Did we play any games off the list? No.
Um, we didn't play any on the list.
Hold on, let me look. Let me look at the list.
We
No.
played Black Rose Wars. Wasn't Black Rose War on there?
No, it actually wasn't, funny
Uh,
enough. Nope. Nope, we didn't.
all right. Well, my number 10 has been on my list at different locations, mostly in the top 20 for since we've started this. I mean, because it's a game that I have been playing since its inception. Even though it's out of print now, it still makes my top 10 because I will play it online with people. I still have a small collection of it that I take to a couple of guys' house here in town and play with it. And it's still just one of those games it's just the perfect card game right now. And that's never.
Mm, nice. Where was this last year again?
Uh, 22.
Wow, okay. Interesting. So, yeah, because I remember it was like a huge deal that it fell out. I thought it was going to keep falling. The interesting that it came back up.
Yeah, I've just got back into. There's a couple of guys, like I said, that had me teach it to them, and I've just been playing it more with them. And I don't have
Cool.
much of a collection. I used to own everything for it, and
Yeah.
then when it died, I was kind of butthurt, and I sold everything, and I wish I would have. So, but yeah, I mean, this is still to this day. I haven't played the new Unlimited Star Wars Unlimited, but it's not the same kind of game yet. But this one you play two different deals per match. You play as the runner once against the corp, and then you play as the corp against the runner. So you have to have two actual decks built for this when you're doing competitive play, and there is a bit of a terminology learning curve at the beginning, but once you get all that stuff down, I mean, even though it had been a few years since I had played this game before showing it, bringing it back up to you and us playing it,
Yeah.
last year at some point or whatever,
Hmm.
I still just remembered it. Like it's just like riding a bike. Like even though it's so like I played thousands of games of this, it's one of those things that I'll never forget how to play.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's my favorite. Uh, I guess I can't say it's my favorite LCG that they've done. It's my favorite competitive LCG. How about that? Just
Okay.
because
Well,
um,
yeah. How many are there, honestly?
competitive. Well, there was Game of Thrones, which I
Right.
enjoyed.
Yeah.
I didn't play the
I guess I
H.
meant like ones that are still alive that
Oh,
I
still
thought,
alive. There is no competitive one still alive.
okay. That's what I thought. Is it Star Wars Unlimited not
It's
competitive?
not an LCG though. I mean, I put it in a different.
Oh,
It's
it's a CCG, isn't it?
yeah,
You're
it's
right. Yep.
competitive, but
Yeah.
it's so I don't know what that's going to be like.
Hmm.
But this was kind of the king of the mountain for them in its heyday,
I
and
wonder if that is what started the decline. I'd like to know, like, if someone did any research on like Fantasy Flight, and it's like because they used to make a ton of games and they were super successful. Like every Fantasy Flight game, people were now they're just like a shell of their former selves. And it's like, when did that happen? Was it
yeah,
the Asmodee acquisition? Was it the Games Workshop partnership? Or I mean, it's obviously a lot of things, but I'd be intrigued to know if because the Games Workshop thing happened before the Asmodee
right,
acquisition,
yeah,
so maybe they
yeah.
just lost a lot of IP and
Well, and
talent.
it happened at the worst time because it was kind of starting to stagnate a little bit
Hmm.
because they had a new creative person, and that last cycle was really rough, and people were like,
Oh,
"Man, this is kind of rough." But then they're like, "Oh, we're going to reboot. We're doing the new stuff. We've got a new designer now. We're going to put out a core 2.0 core set that's going to be updated, and we're going to
yeah.
and all the excitement was there. People were buying all that crap, and they came out with it, and then all of a sudden, brrr, power down. And I'm just like, ugh. And
Yeah.
it just sucked so bad. I mean, you can still play it online with all the original stuff.
Okay.
There's a community still around it.
Is it kind of like Magic the Gathering Arena, kind of?
More or less. I mean, it's a
Okay.
website you go to and play it, but it plays the
Got
same
it.
stuff. But there's the Nisei project, which
I
is
just had I just had this shitty idea where it's like, because I was like, what if it was through like a text box, like not through an actual software game? So you
right.
had to just tell people what you had, and you had to buy
Oh
NFTs
gosh.
of the cards
Oh no no
to
no
own
no.
them. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna play this card. It's like, you don't own that. It's like, oh, actually I do. You show them the NFT. It's like, I own the digital copy of it.
Yeah, yeah, they do a really good job on that implementation. Because back when the game was playing, this was a thing that you could play online. It's
Yeah,
the same people. But that Nisei project is a group of these hardcore fans that kept running with it,
yeah.
and they're putting out new content, and they still do competitive. They do world championships and regionals. I'm like, I don't know how they're able to do it without getting in trouble. Like,
Yeah,
weird.
well,
Like
because like
I've never really researched it, but
there's probably, well, because like for example Smash Bros, like Super Smash Bros, they have like unsanctioned sponsored tournaments, but Nintendo doesn't. I mean, well, actually I think recently Nintendo kind of cracked down a little bit, but like they weren't sponsored by Nintendo, but because they were like fan made and stuff, Nintendo didn't want to, or just acknowledged it. So
yeah,
maybe that's Games Workshop that's like, hey, as long as you're not making content and selling it,
but they are.
then oh, they are? Well
Yeah, the
then,
Nisei project is making. I mean, it's not. They're making new cards and they are selling it to people.
oh,
It's like,
well then I don't know. Actually, then
but it's
I
not
don't.
Android. Like they're not using the Android art. Like a lot of that stuff, they're using
Oh,
their own
so they just
artists
took
and
the
stuff.
system and they're like, hey, it's the same game, but we're
They're
not using your
continuing. Like
IP.
people still use these original cards,
I see.
but they keep
I don't
they
know.
put out new. Yeah, it's weird.
Could
I don't know.
Yeah, because Gloomhaven, they like Isaac has basically given free reign. There's like two massive fan made expansions for
Yeah,
Gloomhaven, and he's like,
Crimson
I don't
Sky,
care.
Crimson, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know. I really think this game, out of all the competitive games, has the legs that it could be run by just one company that makes only Android Netrunner. Like how Wizards basically only makes Magic, and they just have kept that going for God fucking 30 years now.
Yeah.
Um, it's like just do that, just print Netrunner stuff.
If it
I
would
don't
have,
know.
if it would ever come back, I would be like a
Sell
fanboy.
your
Like
whole collection to
I
get
would be
it
like
all.
all about this
I
game if it
know.
ever came back with
I
something.
know. I'd
But
hop in. I'd hop in on that. I like this. I guess what? Yeah, I do like this game. This one has a high barrier to entry.
it
This is
does.
like,
Yeah.
even with you kind of teaching me, I was like, I don't understand how the runner ever wins.
It's the
Um,
terminology and there's a minutia to it, but yeah,
yeah,
you pick it
just
up.
you play it a lot, pick it up. It's kind of like I had to teach Magic at one point to a buddy, and I was like, oh, it's easy. Then I had to teach it, and I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
never mind. Anyway, yeah, good pick. My number 9, yeah, also rose. It was 31 last year and 52 the year before. And at this point, I think this game is done. I hope so at some, because I can't fit any more into this box. I imagine this will be higher on your list. This is a game that you and I have played together. It is fantastic, and it is my favorite chip theory game, and that is Too Many Bones.
Yeah. It might
So
we might talk about it. We'll see.
you're like, oh, I forgot.
Might have fallen off the list totally. Yeah.
I mean, I understand you have two new games. Um, for some reason, Too Many Bones didn't fall back. You just took it out. Um, so Too Many Bones is again a game by Chip Theory. It is their most successful game that they have. Uh, I'd have to look at the numbers for Elder Scrolls. Because I know a lot of people are saying, I've even heard recently when people were talking about this that Elder Scrolls might replace this. I'm dying.
It,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know much about Elder Scrolls. I was like, oh, chip theory, and this isn't Skyrim. Okay, then I'm gonna back it. Other than that,
It pretty much is it's its own game. It just uses the battle system is based strongly on the Too Many
hmm,
Bones battle. That's where the similarity, I think.
Okay. Okay. Well, the Carlson brothers, I have no idea if they're actually related, made something completely special here. The Dice Builder RPG aspect is so unique. There are so many different gear locks. Yeah, that's what they're called. And like tons of different ways to play them. Like like each of them has like basically 4 different builds that you could go to kind of like specialize them just depending on the situation. And the really cool thing about this game, I mean, cool for some people, like I imagine like the combat isn't super dynamic for a lot of people, but the reality the reality of it is that this combat is more of a puzzle. Like whenever you're setting it up, you're pulling out certain chips based off your kind of level, and these chips will have keywords on them, and it's kind of like, okay, how are we going to deal with this puzzle versus the minutia of moving and placement and kind of like terrain and all that. That's not really here, although it is here. Like movement does happen and terrain can happen.
Right.
But usually each fight just kind of has like a rule. Hey, in this fight, ranged attacks have to be adjacent. I don't know, just something, and you're like, oh my god, I'm all about range, and I have 3 hit points, like shit, just things like that, and you try and figure out the best way to deal with it. But man, there is so much content for this game. That trove chest is fuck. I actually took it out of my Calyx shelf to put it on a separate shelf, just kind of like so I could make room for other stuff because they did a really good job on that. Like the trove chest is not, which is kind of funny because all of their content is always neoprene, plastic cards, chips. But the trove chest was not made of neoprene, which I was surprised about. That's not true. It's what I was gonna say.
It'd just be a blob of playmat. Like old.
It's not the best. Like it like I know a lot of people had their things delivered that was kind of broken, but for having it fit in a Calyx shelf and with the amount of content and storage that they did, they did a really good job. And I gotta say, we've talked about a lot of Chip Theory games and we're still not done because I'm sure this is gonna be talked about with yours later. Chip Theory has one of the best customer support.
Yes.
Like they I usually don't talk about publishers and stuff like that, but whenever they go above and beyond, I remember I sold Too Many Bones years ago, and it showed up because UPS is like, it's too heavy, and they like basically tossed it and destroyed everything. So I went to Chip Theory for just I was trying to find anything to help the guy, and I was like, hey, this has nothing to do with you guys. It's not your fault in any way, but here's the situation. Can you help him out? Can you help me out in any way? And I think they gave me like a $50 store credit. I mean, yeah, that doesn't replace any like the amount of what I sent, but they didn't have to fucking do that. They could have been like, "Why, idiot? It has nothing to do with us. We didn't ship it." But they're awesome. They're super responsive. So yeah, and Too Many Bones. They do a great job with the lore. I'm actually super glad they have a campaign for this. I've never tried it, but you don't have to. Just pick a baddie
Right.
and just go play. And I mean, it's still gonna variable lengths on the baddies, but yeah, the baddies are bosses really. I mean, you could probably just call this a boss battler, honestly. Except you don't just fight the boss, so not really. But yeah, it is awesome. There's just so much. And I don't want to keep talking about it because I know you'll want to talk about certain stuff. So we will move on. This is my number 9, shot way up, and that's Too Many Bones.
All right. Yeah, I'll just save my thoughts for later. So my number 9 was 14 last year. It's also been one that's been hovering in the top 10, bounced out last year, bounced back up mainly because we finally got the new content last year and we've been playing it. Me and the Chads have been running through the scenarios with our campaign. And it's just reiterates the fact of how flippin' awesome this game is. And this game would probably be in my top 4 if it was one that wasn't such a bear to get to the table and to play and stuff because I love everything about this game so much. But because of it being so big and expansive, that hinders it just a little bit. And that is Shadows of Brimstone.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, this is still. I mean, we started playing through the Valley of the Serpent Kings, one of the new adventures boxes. That's the campaign we have going right now. And I think I've told you because I chose the Jaguar Warrior. It was some native guy.
Yeah.
But through our playthrough, because they're all conquistadors and I'm the one that's not a conquistador. So what these new boxes add is like team play. So like they get the other guys playing all can kind of have this conquistador pool that they can use to
and
help
you're just
out.
some weirdo.
Yeah, but I got infected by a vampire and I actually turned. So now I'm a vampire. My hit points went way up, my damage went way up, but it's just but I have a chance. I kind of take sanity from my team from them to help me.
That's
But
funny.
I'm just a flipping beast though. And and it's just like all this craziness and everything. So
And
I
you
have
actually have like you get hurt by the sun, right?
well,
Like,
you're in the mines all the time, so, or in
yeah.
spots, so it doesn't really affect me a whole lot. I mean, it could, I guess, depending on what scenarios we pick. The scenarios we've been picking right now, it hasn't come into play, but so there's just stuff like that. And if you do the Gates of Valhalla, there's Vikings, so you have the Viking teams, and there's a Valkyrie, I think, is the one that you could be that's a little different. There's so many heroes for this. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on this game over the years and have all the models put together, and it's just
Are they painted?
no. God, no.
No.
Well, because the thing with this game is it comes with unassembled minis.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons because like when I first started looking at this game, I was like, because I was really against, I was like, I don't want to put together minis. I don't know how to put together minis, and it's like, and then I bought this and this game taught me how to do it. And then I learned the skills of how to really get detailed and get rid of the flash and really make them nice looking and get rid of the gaps and stuff and everything. I'm not going to ever paint. So but I feel accomplished that I'm a good modeler at this point.
Here's what you do though. So to get this game played more, you sell a bunch of your other games. Use that money to hire someone to paint the minis, and then you just have this game to play.
And it's ridiculous.
This is one game that you just will not bring to my house to play.
I would have to take a U-Haul.
Okay, so sell half your games, and then you can afford the U-Haul.
This would be the game that you would have to come to my house and play because
I would do that.
I just have to have that. Well, I need to have my big table.
I know. My friend, we started a Kingdom Death Monster campaign because his new stuff came in, and I go to his place because I don't want him hauling all that shit. Yeah, I really want to play this game.
Well, when I get my game table, or if I just whatever happens, I get my bigger table that we can actually have room to set everything up, then we can run a campaign because it's
dope.
It's awesome. And I even have all the extra crap. Like there's these I don't know how much you remember because I know you've played it a little bit, but like after a mission when you're going to town, there's like road events, that would happen. Like depending on what kind of town you were going to, you'd had to
remember there being town events, like it was like a chart. I don't remember like anything on the way.
Before going to the town, you had to roll these, and they were weird things that happened while you were traveling to the town. Well, there was only 36 of those. You'd roll on the chart. Well, somebody created, and there's like hundreds, and I have it on cardstock in a binder.
Nice.
And roll, and it's just hundreds of different things that happen to give it more flair.
Yeah.
And it's just there's so much to this game, and
just the sheer idea. I don't know if I would ever actually like to record this like for the channel, mainly because I don't like having to constantly be digging for shit, and this game feels like that. It's like, hey, this room has a gate. Okay, cool. Let's go through it. And then it's like, oh my God, that's in the feudal Japan area. I have to go get all that.
You wouldn't be able to do that very well. But I think that's one of the cool things, because if this was just a game that took place in the West, that would be okay, but it wouldn't get as much. Like having those portals and where you can pop up in the jungle or on a spaceship, a derelict ship with zombie astronauts and aliens, and
Hmm.
like one of our one campaign of the West, Chad actually has a saloon girl, and she has like a laser sword that he
Oh,
from the
cool.
derelict ship, so it's like, so here we are in the West, and she has a freaking lightsaber.
Hmm.
It's just cool that all the stories you can tell by playing these games and stuff.
Yeah, I
It's
feel like we miss out on games like that now because the games are campaigns themselves versus I mean I get this is a campaign, but it doesn't feel like it's I guess you could tell me like is there a narrative element like there is in a lot of other games lately?
there's more with these adventure sets. There's more,
Okay.
but generally when we run campaigns, because we run several campaigns over the years,
Yeah.
but more or less it's we stick with. I mean, right now we're doing the West, but if there's books of scenarios and you
Okay.
just kind of pick a scenario
Yeah.
if you want this
Yeah,
scenario
so
that
it's
does
like
this.
the story you get is like the wackiness that you've made yourself, kind of like D&D more or less
Yeah.
versus I mean, because I can't really think of any narrative games I've played lately that are like stories that we've created as players versus like what the story was being told to us, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So
Same.
like this kind of gives that same feeling with like Eldritch Horror, for example. It's like, hey, there's no narrative element, but the shitty craziness that's happening gives us stories to tell.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, this one I really want to jump into. I keep seeing people selling bundles, but I'm like, I don't know how
It's
much
good.
that is, and it's not. I know it's not enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Like
even start at this
I
point.
saw a decent one actually. I think it was like the 2 core sets and like 3 bigger boxes for like 500, and I was like, no, because I'm gonna want fucking everything
Yeah, because
unless they have it on their store.
there's the adventure sets, and there's then there's the little enemy sets that are cool, and all the, I mean, there's just, like I said, I mean, there's been one, two, three, well, and there's a fourth Kickstarter that we did last year. That's
Yeah,
bringing the Hell Train and Egypt into it, that I went all in on that too.
yeah.
And
I guess they well, this is kind of going a little bit off the rails with but it's with Flying Frog because I was like, this is basically what they've focused on. But I
mhm.
guess they're remaking Fortune and Glory.
Yeah, they're doing a revised edition. It's just going to be a little cleaner in a smaller box. They said
Yeah.
it's going to be a 6-fold board instead of that huge. Uh,
Oh yeah, that the like the wide one.
so it's not going
Yeah.
to be a coffin box like the other ones. It's going to be a normal
Hmm.
box.
So
And I didn't
uh,
care for that one as well.
I barely remember it, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's a shame because I was looking at I was like, oh man, what about like maybe Shadows of Brimstone is like maybe it's all on their web store. They actually have quite a few stuff on their web store.
yeah, but that's still a fraction.
You
I'm
say
telling you,
that.
there's so much.
Yeah.
It cost me $1,500 just to get all the first Kickstarter stuff.
Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's completely bonkers,
Hmm.
but I have it all.
That's good. That's good. Maybe one day I'll play it.
Yes.
All right. My number 8, this is the first one that fell, but it fell within the top 10, so it's basically the same. It was number 3 last year, and it was number 3 the year before, and the only reason it fell is because I haven't played it. You're going to start seeing a theme in my top 10. uh,
I know that theme.
what is it, Bradley?
It's going to be your story-driven campaign games.
It certainly is. This is the first one. Funny enough, in the top 10 though. Like Too Many Bones and Great Western Trail aren't that. Um but and funny enough, I'm getting more content for it. I think at this point they're done. I know they're actually working on an RPG, but I'm not interested in that. So my number 8 is Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. I still haven't fucking finished the main campaign.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 others and then another kind of standalone Kings of Ruin, I think is what it was called. Tainted
Yeah, I think you're
Grail,
right. Yeah, I think
Kings
you're
of
right.
Ruin, yep. So got everything for that. I know for Tainted Grail a lot of people say actually Kings of Ruin people are saying best at 1, but this one is saying best at 1 at 2. I very much agree. Um I will agree with that for a lot of campaign games, honestly. Like, Tainted Grail in theme is top 3 at least. This theme is right up my alley because it's like basically Arthurian legend Dark Souls. Just the world that from the Fall of Avalon specifically, your characters are kind of like apprentices of the original heroes, and they all kind of give you a story or a reason why they're leaving and going to fulfill this quest to try and battle back the weirdness, which is kind of this encroaching darkness. And they're gone, and so you're like, oh, we should go find them. And the sheer scope of this game is awesome because they kind of took the Seventh Continent, now Seventh Citadel vibe of exploring. Just not with as many cards. Like Seventh Continent, Citadel have a ton of cards that you're constantly like, hey, this number is 180. Well, there's 3 180s, so the landscape can kind of change. This is very much just these wider cards, but there's a lot to do on them, either actions to do or things to explore, and then you have a booklet that you go into. So much writing. Awakened Realms has to have the best writing in gaming. At least they're top tier. But you're exploring the land, fulfilling quests. The main thing is you have these menhirs, which is that giant statue. That's kind of like the bonfires. Like you have to keep those lit up to have all the cards adjacent to it revealed. Otherwise, you're walking through nothing and you're just taking damage and you're basically going to die if they go out. I know a lot of people didn't like that because it is a lot. It's a lot of resources to keep it going. But it's based off player count, so it's like I actually found it annoying to keep it by myself. Because it's like, oh, I didn't get any magic to do this one. Oh, well, if you have another person, well, they have magic, so you can kind of divide and conquer, keep those lit up. Yeah, there is a ton of content. The combat in this game is really, really cool. You have 2 decks, one being combat, one being like negotiation, and you kind of like what was that ape game? After Us.
Yes.
It's a little bit kind of like that where you're playing cards with abilities, but you're also matching symbols to try and get a certain number of red cubes on what you're fighting to beat them. It's really unique and really interesting, and I like that the most because you can see your trail of cards and like, oh, this is what I did. So you can envision the how the fight is going. So this one is definitely unique. I very much want to get it back on the channel because I don't know how close I was. I think I was a little over halfway on my solo campaign, but every time I came back to it, I was like, I don't know what's happening anymore. So really want to kind of hyperfixate on this one and get it played, but that time will come eventually. And until then, this one is my number 8, still in the top 10. I would be very surprised. I mean, it might fall out just if I keep not playing it because it fell 5 spots. But we'll see. Right now, it's still at number 8. It's amazing. That is Tainted Grail.
All right, I've owned that at one point, but
did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but never really. I had the first Kickstarter. I bought it off a guy, and then kind of never really hit the table and stuff, and seemed daunting. So that's why I just kind of got rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty daunting, but it's worth it, I think. If you don't have a million other campaign games.
Right. All right. So my number 8 is a game. Well, it's a cheat. It is games that
you worthless piece of shit.
we played one version of it last night. It was number 10 last year, so it actually rose 2 spots. And that is
nice.
The Imperium series.
Okay.
And I went on ahead and had Horizons put on here before I played it because I knew it was just gonna be something of the same, more of the same.
Well, so, I don't know, man. You kind of fucking hated your faction.
Well, I still do. I played them again this morning too, and it's still.
Did you really?
I did it solo, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. There's. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but there's something I'm starting to pick up on what to do with them, but it's still.
Did you do better? Was your final score higher than
I played the short. You know how you can do on solo, you can play like the short
I
version
did
or
not. Well,
whatever.
I saw that when I was looking through the rulebook
I did a
yesterday.
short version just to get through it, and I lost 86 to 17. So
You
no.
got 1 point. No, you got one more point.
So so just
Well,
know,
who'd you play against?
the Romans. I just picked somebody
Okay,
easy to. I randomized it out of the box and did it.
gotcha.
So anyway, these games. What we count last night? There was 30 now. I think
Yep, there are.
civilizations.
Yep, there are 30.
This game, and we reiterated the fact after playing and reviewing Horizons last night that this game still to me is solo. I mean, the solo is
Yeah,
awesome. This game, it's too damn long. If you're playing it multiplayer, this is solo. I mean, that's you're gonna pick a civilization. They have a really, especially with Horizons, they have those really sweet AI cards for every civilization. Um, so you can just randomly pick, and then have it
mhm,
out there. And you are just, every civilization is different. I
yeah,
mean, I know there's some that are like the Greek and Romans are similar, but that makes sense because one's kind of based on the other. Um,
yeah.
but like last night we played the two weirdest ones out of the Horizons box, and the
Yeah,
Martians.
without looking. Yeah, I was like, you know what? Cultist Martians. Those are the ones that don't really fit here. Let's figure it out. And we're just looking at the cards and we're like, what's the difficulty?
Yeah, my cards had paragraphs on them.
Yeah, you're like, man, what is? I'm like, oh, yep, yours is 5 star. Oh, what's the cultist? 6.
Yeah,
There's okay.
yeah. So anyway, it's just outstanding. It's got its simple looking game, like simplified, I guess. It's the tokens are kind of they're just functional. The card backs are kind of just function. Like kind of bland in a way. But to me, when you're playing a game like this, that makes the uh, the art on the cards pop more when you do have the cards. Like the landscapes and the different stuff
Yeah,
are awesome. Being able to get those combos working. If you get the right cards in hand and you're able to throw down these different combos that let you bounce some stuff off. Managing whether you're going to be uh, when to switch from barbarian to civilized, and stuff like that. And
yeah,
that's what's different because like last night, we both of our civilizations were weird with our nation card. Like,
yeah. Like
I started
you,
off alien, and then I had to decide whether I wanted to stay that way or go to native, and
yeah.
there was different stuff.
And the cultists basically had 4 stages. They had their empire and then barbarian, and then once you made it through that, then you went to corrupted and then summoned.
Yeah,
Which and that's why they're difficulty 6 because you have to manage basically because cards become obsolete. Like this Spanish card that
yeah,
is
sucked.
with the blue symbol, that's basically unusable until you're an empire. So
Right.
it's like I had a lot of cards that were useful to me until I'm like, oh shit, I'm now corrupted, and now my barbarian and empire cards are useless. So how can I use but that's the cool thing. They're not dead cards necessarily. You just have to find different ways to use them,
Uh-huh.
which is
Yeah.
cool.
So,
We talked about this in the discussion for Horizons. Imperium was a little bit further back on my list. I don't like it as much, but I do now agree with you. I was getting mad that it was your turn. Not that you were doing badly or anything. It
right.
was more of just I just want to go. I just want to play. Um, but it was actually pretty high on my list. It rose a shit ton. It was 65 last year. Yeah, it was 29.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing we talked about was whenever you hear this game and everyone says every faction plays different, but then you hear how the game is played and it's like, do they? Are they just thematically different? One, yes, they are, but two, they do play different. You just have to play it.
Right.
So I could explain to you how the Martians and the cultist worked, but a lot of terminology and stuff is gonna sound like they do the same thing, but they really don't.
Right.
So
Yeah.
not so asymmetric that it's like like playing Root or something. It's not that type of asymmetry. There are similarities because it's a deck builder. You can't really have it where it's like, oh, my faction can't garrison cards. It's like, well, okay, that's a kind of a big deal. So there's core things every faction does, but it's
Yeah.
really cool. It's a very slick design.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I mean, and then yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff put into this, and the solo is outstanding.
It really is. All right, good pick. Going back a little bit to your number 9. So I've been looking at the Flying Frog official store.
Yeah.
I have added basically just the core boxes for some stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm already at over a grand.
I know. I'm telling you, man. It's nuts.
I,
And
I
I looked
that's
last night, and there's only a third of what's available. Like what I have is on that store.
really.
Yeah.
I don't think you're looking at it correctly.
I
I'd be very surprised because they have a bunch of different tags for all the different stuff. But what do I know?
yeah.
What do I know? There's just a lot of shit because I went to like their or their core thing and I was like, oh really? That's all they have on their store, and then they have like 8 different tabs.
Right.
Anyway, my number 7 stayed the same. It was number 7 last year and 14 the year before. Kind of weird actually that it did stay the same considering that a lot of content has been pumped out, but I guess a lot of content was pumped out for it last year too. So I guess it doesn't make or it's not all that weird. Again, this is probably gonna be higher on your list, or maybe it's also the same number. And we played a different themed game of this last night as well, but it seemed like we like this one a lot more. And my number 7 is Marvel Champions,
Yes.
the card game. We played Lord of the Rings, the card game, last night. Basically, it was kind of like, oh man, everything in this game is not as good as Arkham or Marvel. They have definitely just cashed in on this game a lot. Kind of like what they do with their cooperative, you know, Fantasy Flight's cooperative games. And still to this day, every single hero that I've played has just played completely different. Even whenever they are like thematically the same, it's like, oh no, they still play different, and that is amazing to me. The latest heroes to be released individually is Deadpool and X-23. They are phenomenal. Even characters that I play that I don't like as much, uh, like I still think are unique, and it's like, okay, this just isn't my play style, and that's the sign of a really good game. If you're not familiar with Marvel Champions, it's essentially a boss battler. Like you pick 2 characters and you go up against a villain, and there's so many villains now. In fact, with all the boxes that they make, there's usually 5 villains in there, 2 heroes and 5 villains. So they've done a really good job of not just pumping out heroes, but also a shit ton of villains too. So you have a ton of options. I don't think this game will ever get to the point of like where Legendary's at, but this game also has a lot more depth to it than Legendary. Uh, like because every villain plays differently, every hero plays differently, and thematic too, which is awesome. Like, God, and we have to do more rankings for them,
Yeah.
because we're like that's what we were doing, but it's like I don't even remember. We can do rankings off like over Zoom. I don't
Yeah.
see any reason why we have to do it in person. I just have to go back and see where we left off and see what heroes
Gosh.
we haven't done. But yeah, what's really cool about this game is one, it has pre-con decks that I think are actually really good. Of course, they can always be built better, but you can deck construct, and it's pretty simple on how you deck construct. You just take a hero and pick an aspect, and some characters can actually use multiple aspects. And there's apps out there and websites that it's like, hey, here's super fast busted, the Flash Zone Quicksilver, and it's like, okay, here's how you can make him do 600,000 damage in one turn. Because one thing I do when I always review is I try to quickly come up with how much damage you could do in a perfect hand.
Right.
And no one ever calls me out on it, so I'm guessing that I'm doing it correctly. But yeah, there's like a lot. That's always kind of fun where it's like, what can you do? What can I make up right now that's like the best possible case scenario, and it's like, yeah, this does like 35, 40 damage. Well, that would one shot any villain, but it's also never gonna happen.
Right.
The box sets that they make for it are really cool, very challenging, and you can always play it harder. Like there are
Right.
some men that were like still to this day, I think Ronan
I still
is.
have never beaten Ronan.
I think I've beaten him once, and I'm sure I cheated. Like I'm sure there's just so much going on. I do not understand why he is so difficult. Uh, but even then, like Kang is super cool. Not the actor who plays Kang, but the actual the character in the game. They're it's awesome. Now they're in the X-Men stuff, so I don't know. I think Fantasy Flight will keep pumping this out. I They've slowed down on the heroes, like the hero packs, a lot because they were really just jumping them out. So I don't know. It is just really neat. Love the hand management system. It's so just elevated with its decision making, uh, which is just something cool. It's not difficult to figure out how to play cards and stuff, but they just did a awesome job with this one. And I even like this game so much that I have it all organized, and I actually got their premium sleeves. Which is basically just stupid. It's like get clear sleeves because the backs are still going to be the
Yeah.
same. But nope, mine have sleeves with the orange and blue and purple backs. And I still need to do what you did with like the dice because the only thing I don't like is fucking with those
Yes.
tokens.
The next time we play it, I'll bring those up. I have those.
Yeah.
They're really cool, like red and yellow and stuff dice that pop really nicely.
Yeah, and that would just be way easier to manage because those tokens just are annoying. So yeah, that is my number 7 Marvel Champions, the card game.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the Fantastic Four. I think that would be a cool
Oh
box.
yeah, that's a good one.
With that movie coming back, next year. I'm kind of thinking that might be a thing, and
Yeah,
then
that'll
I'm
probably be a box set. I bet you it's a box set with 2 of the 4, and then the other 2 are packs.
well, then I'm waiting on my favorite superhero has still not in the game yet.
Punisher?
Yes.
Is he not?
No, he I think he's he's an ally, I think.
Yeah, I guess
But
he's
not
not.
like the main guy.
Well, yeah, because they could do the Defenders still. They have Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the other girl.
Jones.
Yes. So there's
Yeah.
her, and then you could do Mr. Purple, or I don't remember his name. I don't know the Defenders all that well. I didn't watch the show. I watched Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, and then the first thing of Daredevil. But I mean, they have so much. Like I'm waiting for the promo Squirrel Girl to come in and just have a card that it's one card, you win.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, they have a ton they could still do, and I mean, I'd be surprised if they were losing money on this at this point.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So my number 7 is my first new one. So
Okay.
this
Okay.
this is one that I became enamored with after playing it. This last year, I went and got all of the Kickstarter stuff for myself, and haven't made it a long ways through the game because I keep playing that first scenario when I'm showing it to other people a bunch. And I have done the second scenario as well, but I'll try to keep that spoiler free because this one is Oathsworn Into the Deep Wood.
Nice.
This one was one that I have heard a lot of people talking cool stuff about. I didn't do the first project. Then you had all your stuff, and we played through that first scenario with the rat, and all that stuff.
Spoiler.
Well, it's right on the cover, and
that you'll know when you fight it.
And so, and just the coolness of how you start off, with you're moving around the city, making decisions. It's going to impact stuff at the very beginning before you even do the boss battle, or you're kind of moving around on like a timer type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into the story of fighting, and that's cool enough. But then they throw in that the battle flow system, which was really sweet with you play these really cool cards, but then they have to like, I mean, I guess kind of like recharge or whatever is what they're.
It's like a cooldown system.
Yeah, cool down. You got to play other cards and it moves it around until it comes back into your hand. So
Mm-hmm.
you just have to kind of, that's another aspect to it. And if you get the version that has all of the minis, then you have a big ass rat with all these little rats in there. And that's why this one, I made sure that this was the picture that was put in this, because I didn't want it to be,
Yeah.
because this is your intro scenario. And I think the other cool thing with this, and you haven't talked about this yet, so I assume it's going to be coming up,
No,
but
I have not.
the other thing that I thought was really ingenious with this was the decisions, because you have these dice decks, and then you actually have dice as well. So
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a skill check or an attack or whatever, you can choose to do dice, you can choose to do cards, you can choose to do, you sometimes that you may know that the decks are going to be more forgiving, so
Yep.
you can do the decks, or that you've done a bunch of cool, or got a lot of the nice stuff out of the black deck or whatever deck, and so you're like, shit, we're going to get hit, so we need to start rolling dice,
Yep.
and stuff like that. So that just having that decision of doing both of those ways, I mean, they could have just simply made, okay, this is going to be a dice chuck,
Yeah.
or this is going to be card, and instead you get that choice, and that's
They gave so
awesome.
much agency to the players because, like, one thing that they have in this game is the determination rule, which is basically it incentivizes you to always go for it. If you have a bunch of tokens that you want to spend, that's going to help with an attack, spend them, because
Mhm.
if you miss, like, let's say you have a bunch of rerolls or redraws and empowers that let you take higher colored decks or dice, spend them, because even if you still miss, yeah, it's gonna suck, but all those tokens you spent, you get back, and you get to take a combat token of your choice,
Right.
because they understood through their lore that it's like, you guys are Oathsworn. You fight these fucking things all the time. You're not like, oh, what do we do? It's like, no, and now you're like, next time I'm gonna fucking get you. Uh, and it still sucks, but it could be where it's like, nope, sorry, you spent it all and still missed, like a lot of games.
Yeah,
And yet,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to bring up another, if you were still had a thought on that, go ahead.
It was kind of related to that. It was more, I was going to say, they gave so much agency to the players, and yet every fight is still feels balanced somehow.
Mhm.
Like, these designers just found a way to just really, fine tune this game.
Yeah, well, and I like the other thing that I really like, and just using this scenario, and I think it's up here to the right. Like, you get a image board for the boss that you're fighting, and with this rat, like, you had to kill the tail,
Mm-hmm.
because those did damages to you, but you want to take them out. But it also makes it just balance it well. Like, when you take a part out, then other stuff happens,
Yep.
and stuff. And I even bought cool dice they're like bloody dice to
Oh,
put in those
nice.
put in those slot to make them look cooler.
Yeah, they
But,
kind of they for their second edition they released like premium dice.
yeah, I
They're
have
not
those. Yeah.
okay. And then like the health dice are metal,
Hmm.
which is sexy as hell. Uh yeah, no, I haven't talked about this game yet.
I figure you will. And
So
then I assume when you talk about it here in a few picks, probably you'll talk about the information you've heard from the possible future, maybe.
yes, I can talk about that now. Because there are a few things that we haven't talked about yet that I'm saving. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, um, because I talked to these guys at Gen Con last year. I asked them if they were done with Oathsworn, and they were like, "Oh, no, no, not at all." Because they have another game coming out.
It's our
That's
cash
like an
cow.
area control game. Right. Uh, they were, yeah. So they were like, well, that was kind of more of a buffer and to give them time to work on more stuff. That's all I know. They did not release any additional information except that they are going to be making more. But with how balanced this game truly is, I imagine it takes a lot of playtesting
Oh yeah.
to do. So I don't know. I talked about that in my final discussion for this because this is actually a campaign I have completed. Yay! There's one down. Uh, and I have no idea what they do. Honestly, I don't. We talked about it, trying to spitball ideas of what they could do, but none of them feel solid.
Yeah, I
But
just see him going to another part of the world.
that's
But
my guess too. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's my number 7, Oathsworn.
Nice. Fantastic game. My number 6 was definitely on your list way earlier. This Rose, it was number 25 last year, number 8 the year before. So it's gone up even from a couple years ago. This has mainly just been because there's been still a bunch of content, even more content going to be coming out for it. I don't understand how they do it, but man, I'm finally, so I remember years ago I did a top 10 games that are better than KDM, and this game was on that, and so many people got upset, but now I'm finally getting validation for it. So my number 6 is Aeon's End. I have always said this game was a boss battler, and people were like, it's not, it's a fucking card game. And it's like, very good. Yeah, it is. You can have both. Uh, and that's exactly what this is. You set up a boss and you fight it. There's like, unlike Too Many Bones, where you go through stuff until you finally get to the boss, this one you set up a nameless and you fight it. Even the legacy games, like the original and then Legacy of Gravehold, is narrative boss battling. Like you don't do any minions or anything like that until you get to it. It's here's the boss. And yeah, this is just fantastic. The fact that every nameless is completely unique in how they run and their rule system. This is one of the best cooperative games on how you're going to use your mage's special abilities and their special cards, how you're going to decide to deck build versus your ally. I have no idea. Is that on a rug? Like what
I
weird
have no idea.
um but yeah, they have so many cards for gems and relics and spells that at this point I just use a randomizer to figure out who I'm gonna fight and which mages we're gonna play and which what the market's gonna look like. And luckily there's like a website slash app that you can use that will help with all that. But you're just gonna get a completely different game, completely different synergies for it. And the turn order deck is super unique. I think at least it was back whenever this game came out,
Right.
where every player had a player number and that was in the deck, and you shuffled the turn order deck, so you didn't know when you were going to go and when the enemy was going to go. And I find that super balanced. Like it's like sometimes you don't want to go, back and forth because if all the players go, then all that's left is the nameless to go twice. But if the nameless goes twice, then it's like, okay, well, now it's just us. So we just have to weather through that barrage of attacks, which is brutal. This game is not an easy one to win. Although I win this game more often than I lose, but it's always to the, you know, very end. Which is a good feeling. Like it's like, oh shit, okay, like we I don't know if we're gonna make it.
Yeah.
And that's even you can even make this game harder. Every nameless has an increased difficulty element. So it's just amazing. And the newest Kickstarter, The Descent, I think, adds in like allies to
Mhm.
both the nameless and the players. So that's pretty cool. Um, and then the fact that you also don't shuffle your deck like
Yes.
every other deck builder. You basically fine tune your deck and play cards in a specific order. So it's like, okay, now I'm gonna get this gem, which is gonna help me cast this spell or whatever it might be. Um, that's just so cool. And first one that I remember playing back in the day when I hated deck builders, this game got me into deck building. Uh, so yeah, it's amazing. Still waiting on that sexy ass storage system, you know,
They'll
that
do
can
it
do
once
it.
it's over, once it's done. But they just
Yeah,
keep
and
putting it out.
yeah, and I don't think that this game is so expansive that it would be a burden to make one,
Yeah.
Like it feels like they could do like and kind of like what do you say, a coffin box?
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like coffin box with dividers, plastic dividers, and then you just have a top sheet, like a top tray that just holds the nameless and the mages. It'd be a big box, but I think it's definitely doable, unlike some other card games.
Yeah, I almost didn't back this last Kickstarter. Only because I'm so far behind on it that
Yeah.
but I went on it and did it anyway just because I have to have it all. But yeah, this is a really good one, and we've played through all the legacies
hmm
and
Yeah,
stuff.
and I'm
So
glad they didn't do another legacy. I actually that's the one negative of this game. I think the writing is just kind of like mediocre. Like it's like I like the world. I think the world's really cool, but they don't really like they don't expand on the world. They really expand on the characters, and the characters never shut the fuck up.
yep.
It's like, God, just say your point. Can you quit using a whole page to talk about nothing?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. It's not the best writing but it's not the worst either.
Right.
So that is my number six. Aeon's
All right, good choice. My number six is my other new one to this list, and I was surprised
Oh,
that it was my new one. I must have played it after I made the list last year. Um, so it must have been just right on that cusp because it wasn't on my top 100 last year. This is my highest rated solo only game. Um, most of the ones I play in this top 10 I play solo, but this one's the only you can only play it solo. Um, and that is Hoplomachus
wow.
Forum. Um, again,
Boo. Boo.
you have the theme of storytelling campaign games. My theme is going to be soloable chip theory games. Because
That's true.
uh this one I've always liked Hoplomachus, and then when they decided they were going to be doing the remastered Hoplomachus and then put Hoplomachus Victorum in, and they said this was solo only with a fantastical view of this time period.
hmm
I was like, yes, please.
I
And
will say I do really like the theme of this game.
yeah, yeah, because it's like I think it's like it's Pluto
hmm
is the god of the underworld, that you're eventually going to get to, but you play.
It's Roman. Yeah, it's Roman mythology, right?
Yep, yep.
Yep.
So yeah, because Mount Vesuvius is what you're
hmm Well,
climbing.
shit, I completely forgot about Roman mythology. That's another mythic battles uh,
Yeah,
mythology they could do after Egypt.
yeah, that's true. It'd be pretty close
It
to
would, yeah, I don't see them doing
though.
that because it's basically Greek mythology.
Roman and Greek are the same. It's just they
They,
changed the names. Pretty much.
yeah,
Pretty much. I mean,
right,
that's really it. I mean,
right.
But anyway, but this one, like I said, solo only. It uses the same battling system like Hoplomachus does. It's just in a different forum per se. Um, you are moving along. It's like a campaign, and it takes a long time. But if you go into it, I mean, if you're playing solo, then time's not really going to be an issue anyway. So uh, I like the little marbled tray that they you
hmm
keep stuff in. That was a cool addition. Um, and there's different kinds of battles, whether it's like a King of the Hill kind of thing or whatever. I don't have the metal dice. I don't see a point in having the metal dice, but yeah, I mean, this is just it tells a story again, not the best story of all, but when you're playing through, it's challenging. Um, and you are eventually working your way up to that big final battle after I mean, you're going to play a few hours to get through all this stuff for sure. I don't know how long it took you, because did you finish it when you borrowed it from me? Like,
I
did you
did.
do the whole
Yep.
campaign? How
Yep.
long
I
did it
think.
take you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I can actually look that up for you. It took me a long time, and that's why I really don't like this game. Um, yeah, let me look that up because I think I recorded every single like day or whatever it
Right.
was.
Yeah.
Um,
So while you're looking that up, but anyway, so if you like Hoplomachus and you don't, because the solo and Hoplomachus Remastered is fine,
So
but
there's 4 acts. That's
right.
right. There's 4 acts. So it took me 2 hours and 44 minutes for Act 1, 2 hours and 23 minutes for Act 2, 2 hours and 15 minutes for Act 3, and an hour for Act 4. So 7 hours to play through the whole game.
Right. And it
Now
does have a save system. I mean, you can put stuff in.
it does, yes. But because I was borrowing it and yada yada, so and I was recording it, there are a lot of little factors that might have also made me not like it. And I will say, my understanding is I believe they released a short variant.
There is a shorter one. Yeah, you can do shorter.
So if I were to ever play this, I would very much do that because 6 hours to get to the boss, like the boss you pick at the end, and the boss not being good enough to justify 6 hours, that was like a huge like, they just shit right in my mouth
Yeah.
right there. Now, if it was like a couple hours, 2, 3 hours to get to the boss, that's a little bit better. That's a lot better actually.
Yeah. This so like I was saying, if you like Hoplomachus, the solo play for the remastered is just kind of there. And if you're playing Hoplomachus and know you're just going to be playing it solo, then this is the way to go because there is a little bit of story to it. And if you take it act by act instead of, I mean, that's what I do. I don't play the whole damn thing at once. But you can just kind of leave it set up, run through it, play it, however you go. But this was
I like the different games, like the
Yeah.
3 different, like Bloodsport, then the games, and then I think the orange one was more of just, or orange. The green one was just more conditions, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're a solo player, like I'm a big time. I'm the solo guy. I play most of my games solo. Then this was a welcome addition to me, and then having the Chip Theory games quality just pushed it up over the top with for myself.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna say good list because I don't really like this game, but I know you like it a lot. So, good list or good pick for you. All right, my number 5. This is the other one that fell. And it literally fell just a few spots. So it was my number 2 last year and number 6 the year before. And funny enough, this is another game we talked about a lot yesterday because this is the best version for me of this card game. And it mainly fell again because I haven't played it, but I keep getting the stuff for it. And that is
This is my number 5 too. If it's
is it
the same
really?
thing. Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Nice. So we can talk about it together.
Yeah. This was my number 6 last year. So
Okay.
it climbed up a spot.
Nice. Yeah, so I mean this game is it just has so much content now. They just released another box set. Thank God in their revised form. But I mean at one point I could never really decide whether I like this one or Eldritch Horror more. But if you want pure Lovecraft, I mean this one is really this is it.
Yeah.
Like this is Lovecraft the game, just as a card game, but they found an awesome way to just make it feel so immersive. Like with just the cards as the locations, they get really creative with a lot of those. The writing is still well done, and this one, kind of unlike the Lord of the Rings one, has branching narratives
Right.
within the scenarios, decisions that you can make that will give you a different ending. And I think that really is what enhances this game. So you have that, you have the way that the treacheries work, still feeling familiar to like the other two, Lord of the Rings and Marvel Champions, but this kind of is your combination. It's a little bit more involved with deck building, but you kind of start out really with a precon almost. You're very restrictive. But your characters are also restrictive as you gain XP. And when at the end of each scenario, it's like, oh, hey, we can buy cards, and you spend that XP, but you can only buy cards from a certain aspect still. But you still feel very unique, and it's not scenario based. Like, your character is gonna be that deck you built is gonna be viable throughout the entire campaign. You just might tweak some stuff, and you might still have some weaknesses based off of just what's being needed. But if you're playing with another person, they could be really helpful.
That's what I was going to say that's unique about this game that I like is in like Marvel Champions and Lord of the Rings, they all kind of share stuff a little bit. The
Hmm.
one that I like about this is because in Lord of the Rings and Marvel, you'll have the same starting deck unless you tweak it. But like this one's a deck that evolves as you play. Like
Yes,
you can't do that with the other games. This feels more campaigny
that's true.
than the other ones because you do get the weaknesses. You do get if you're insane, you're losing your stuff, and because your character can just kind of by the time the campaign's over go insane pretty damn quick. You
Yeah,
know,
no, actually, well, it's funny because I remember the first time I thought that you could carry characters from each scenario.
yeah.
So I did that for so you did the first one, the Forgotten or the Zealot.
Hmm.
First one, neither the Zealot, and the
Yeah.
second one is Dunwich Horror. So technically, you can. You shouldn't, because these characters, they can gain permanent injuries and permanent sanity hits, which means you start off every character like Roland Banks has a threshold of 9 hit points and 5 sanity. I was starting every fucking mission with like 3, 4 sanity, so it's like I'm basically having to hope and filter through my deck to get my whiskey, to get my self-help books, to be like, oh my, like, okay, what horrific thing am I gonna see in that barn? You know what? Not gonna matter if I'm drunk. Which was thematic. It was fun, but it was so brutal. So you can't do that. They don't really have ways to carry in that way, but I think that's fine because then there's so many
Oh
characters,
yeah.
like and they've kept it surprisingly, especially with Fantasy Flight, they kept it still contained because you have the different aspects, but they never really created like new aspects. Like it's like, hey, these are the colors, like green, red, orange, blue,
Cool.
and purple.
Yep.
Those are your 5. And they never were like, here's a pink one. Here's here's a white one. To just really bloat it. And I like that. I think they've still, I mean, a good example of a scenario that's being creative is one that is usually talked about a lot, but they like you're on a train and there's like this portal that
Hmm.
opens up and you have to run the train. The scenario cards are in a line, so you have to basically run because at the end of a round the back card is getting sucked into the train. So it's like that's just super cool and feels very thematic. So this would still probably be super high up. Like, I mean, it's number 5, but it'd probably be 2 or 3 still if I was playing it more regularly.
Yeah, me too.
But unfortunately, I am not. Again, it's a campaign, so and I want to get these recorded. But I mean, I have other campaign games that I'm playing. So yeah, this one. I mean, did you want to add anything? Because this was also your number
I
5.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this one we talked about it in the recording yesterday that if of the three, this one's the most thematic of the three
Hmm.
games in that little family, just because there is the narratives that you can, branching narratives and all that stuff. I also like the modifier bag, um, the
Oh
threat
yeah,
bag or whatever. Yeah, because I mean that's something the other games don't have, where
true.
you could get a complete whiff, you could get a pure success, or then there's
Hmm.
other modifiers in there as well.
And that changes that through the course of the campaign too, based off
Right.
decisions. And yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good
So I mean,
point. And
it's
I
just
got
a
these
lot
really
going
cool, whatever you do, if you get this game, throw those tokens in the fucking trash, get a new bag, and get upgraded to, or get the coin capsules.
Yeah,
Because drawing,
I have etched wood ones. Like I
oh,
bought them
nice.
off
Okay,
of someplace, and they're like it's like they're wood, and they're like wood grade, like burnt
okay,
versions of them and stuff. They're kind of neat.
cool. Yeah,
But
I have these metal glass ones. Like they're not double sided, but it's like these little like dome looking ones.
mhm.
Those things are sexy. Um, Actually, I think new tokens have been released since then. I might have to look up.
That's what I was getting ready to say because I bought those damn wooden ones, and now I think the one before this Hemlock,
Hmm.
that was like the snowy ones. They had different tokens in there, and I'm like, shit. It's like now I've got to
Yeah.
figure out where I got those from, so they're the same material, or just buy them all new again.
Yep. Yep. That's a
So,
good point. Um. Anyway, so that's our number. Oh, well, actually, you said this was your number 5, right?
yep, both of them. Yep.
Okay. Well, number 4 is technically in the same spot, but it is a different game. But it's pretty much the same game. So it was number 4 last year, and the other version of it was number 2 the year before. Uh, this basically from I guess from last year it stayed in the exact same spot, and that is
Oh yeah.
Frosthaven. So last year it was Gloomhaven, but at this point I'm combining all of them, like with Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, and Frosthaven. Okay. So Frosthaven specifically is basically if you have played Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion and you loved both, there is no reason I can think of that you wouldn't love Frosthaven. It is for people who love the originals. It's just more. It's just a lot more, but it's better, in my opinion. So the biggest difference between the two is there is now like a settlement phase where after you do your mission, you go back and you actually have a full-fledged event with narrative elements, um, and resources to spend to be able to build up the the village or to build up Frosthaven. They really put in a way for you to care because I wasn't really in Gloomhaven. You just kind of went and you could learn more about the town and stuff. There was some stuff you could do in Gloomhaven, but basically it was there. Frosthaven, you establish and you need resources to do that. So that's the biggest change. And also when your characters retire, they can open up shops and stuff in Frosthaven, which is really neat. The other thing, and I actually have been playing this as a camp. Well, I haven't played in quite some time, but I started the campaign with a few friends, and unlike Gloomhaven again, where Gloomhaven was just like kill all enemies, basically every scenario was that. They really don't do that in Frosthaven. There's a lot of scenarios that are very unique, and some are very gimmicky, which can work, and some might not work. Uh, but at least it's different. Like there's been some that I was like, I really hate how this works. But that could either be because the character I'm playing is not good for it, or the gimmick just didn't work, but at least it's different. The characters have difficulty levels to them. Again, that's the best thing about the Haven series is every character plays different. That hands management. I know a lot of people are kind of getting turned off a little bit about like Gloomhaven and stuff, but even people who are like, I'm not playing it as much, still understand how awesome that hand management system is, how unique every character is. And not just like, oh, well, they kind of can do the same thing. It's like, no, your characters are different and they are really different in Frosthaven. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna, labor on this too much just because it is Gloomhaven just with more to it. Um, but yeah, it's just fantastic. Like this will be eventually a series on the channel too. I just got to get through some other campaign stuff to be able to devote more time to this. And yeah, and then I got the second edition of Gloomhaven because they're kind of basically refining it to
Yeah.
kind of fit more like Frosthaven.
Yeah,
And
I Gloomhaven was my 15. I don't have this one on my list just because I haven't played it yet. I've been waiting for the
hmm
books that will be showing up here imminently.
yes. Oh
So
my
once
God.
once the books show up, then I'll probably start this because Gloomhaven, I'm kind of just kind of stalled out on it a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, and I think I just want this fresh stuff. We start
sure.
with this. So like you said,
Yeah.
I'll probably play the video game version of the other one and
Yeah, just to
get
finish
it done.
Gloomhaven, it's the exact same thing. Honestly, if people, could even make an argument of being like, "Hey, don't buy Gloomhaven." I mean, I get it because all the characters are compatible. If you just want to play the scoundrel or whatever they are in Frosthaven, you're more than welcome to. Um, but yeah, if you just want to know the story, they don't connect at all. From my
Right.
understanding, it's like get Frosthaven because you get way more bang for your buck, and then just pay 15, $20 for the video game version of Gloomhaven, and you're gonna catch up on
Yeah.
that. So I'm very intrigued if they're gonna make Frosthaven as a video game. That would be cool. I I mean, because they have Jaws of the Lion, I would be very surprised if they didn't at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those books, those map pack books, he basically made it difficult for himself by doing that with Jaws of the Lion because it's like, oh, this is immediately fucking better. Then please do that.
He
Please
made more
just
money for himself because
yeah,
it's like $50 to get the map book, so he just got $50 out of
yeah.
everybody else.
Because that's one of the daunting things is those set like you don't have to deal with the little tiles. You don't have to. And
Mhm.
they made the app that integrates with everyone who's playing. You know, hey, put in this code. Boom, the app's done. So now you put in your initiative. You manage your own shit. It's
Yeah.
funny that they included a lot of stuff with Frosthaven to reduce how much stuff you actually use. But that's the
Right.
cool thing is for people who don't want to use an app, for people who don't want a map book, they like the creativity. It's like that's all still there. Like if you want to be more analog about it, go for it. It's gonna work just as good. I don't want to do that. So I will
Yeah.
use the app and I will use the map book because it's just gonna look better and be easier to set up. So yeah, it took me 5 years to beat Gloomhaven by myself. Probably gonna be longer for Frosthaven. Uh, so yeah, and I don't know. I know this game has so much to it, but it's like, well, Cephalofair Games only makes this. I wonder if he's gonna do another Haven game.
Maybe. I mean, he made it. This broke the record, didn't it, for biggest
Yes.
campaigns? Though, I mean, shit.
Yeah, it beat it. This one is the only one that beat out Kingdom Death Monster.
I think this is what 13 mil, something like that.
13 or 16. Um, it made it made 13 million.
Yeah,
12.9.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Wow. Yeah. And then and I think even KDM came out and congratulated him for it.
Well, and then all
Uh,
the add-ons. I mean, the books had to have made thousands and thousands and
yeah.
thousands of dollars just in those
Yep.
books.
And then
Everybody wants them.
the Gloomhaven festival thing where now
Hmm.
they're doing an RPG, they're doing minis.
Yeah,
Which I didn't do the minis because I'm like, no, that's way too much. And I'm not gonna I'd rather have the standees honestly for this one. But I am getting second edition and I'm getting the button and bugs thing.
yeah.
So
Yep.
yep, that's my number 4, Frosthaven.
All
Said that
right.
like I was disappointed. But it's like,
All right.
yeah, I guess it was number
Yeah,
4.
I'll start getting it played sometime probably this year. All right. My number 4 was number 2 last year. It's just my first one that dropped just a little bit.
Okay.
This is a game in the same theme as my number 5. And the only reason this game fell is because I haven't played it a whole lot because I'm waiting on the new stuff that we backed on Kickstarter for. And that is
Oh,
Cthulhu Death May Die.
nice.
Like I said,
Man, I thought this was gonna be your number 1.
nope.
I really thought it'd jump up there, but I guess you don't really like it.
No. Like I said, I mean, it was 2 last year, moved to 4 just because I really haven't played it a whole lot this year. I've kind of played through a lot of the stuff with this game, so I'm kind of waiting on that new stuff to get to season 3 and season 4 and the big Cthulhu and all that jazz. And yeah, I mean, this would be, yeah, I guess it's my highest CMON game. Makes sense. But I didn't get this, like I didn't back this on Kickstarter when I first saw it because I'm not a huge Lovecraft, person. It's grown on me over the
Yeah.
years, but then I bought the retail versions of this and season 2 when I was on a work deal and played it and just absolutely fell in love with it.
Yeah.
The sanity system and all the characters that there are, and it's a very difficult game to beat. you know, so it's one of those cooperative games you're not going to just beat every time. And I guess the only thing I would complain about would be I mean, I think you brought this up when you talked about was the tile size.
Yeah, it's bad. Like
Yeah.
it's God, I'm fucking bright still. I'm like blinding myself. Yeah, it really is a production issue that kind of is like it does affect gameplay, I think.
Well, and I think they probably had, you know, they wanted to fit everything in that size of box, and that
Yeah.
was probably where they made their cuts. And whatever. I mean, it's still, it's to me, it's a not a huge complaint.
I'm
But
amazed they didn't do a map pack though,
yeah,
or the tile pack for their latest Kickstarter. That would have made them so much money, I think.
yeah. Um, the unique part of this game is, you know, you're going to be rolling these dice. It's your typical CMON dice checker, but whenever you roll the tentacles, you're going to be going a little more insane. And the track at the top of your character board is where that's going to keep going up. If it ever reaches the end, you're done. You're out. But every time it hits these little reddish maroon colored things, and you get to upgrade your character. So there's a balance that you want to do there. You want to be able to upgrade your characters, but then you can only take so much sanity before you die. And there's a timer going, because whatever old one you choose is going to be eventually be popping onto the board.
Yep.
But you can't damage that old one until you've interrupted the ritual, whatever the ritual is for that deal. And once you interrupt the ritual, then you can start damaging him. And that's brings the other part of this that was cool, is that, I mean, there's all these, so far you have the elder gods that you can choose, and then you choose a scenario, and they each have their own cards and chits and everything, and you just pull both those boxes out, pull the minis out, set it up. You have your cards right there, and your decks are made and everything. And you just, that's an awesome system, because it just keeps everything in the little tuck boxes. You don't have this, so the setup is pretty quick. You just kind of throw it all out there and get rolling.
Yep.
And the more, I mean, you know, there's these season 3 and 4 just added more elder gods, more enemies, and a lot more scenarios, and that just adds more to the replayability and the combinations that you can do. And right now, I have a stack of heroes. It's probably about an inch and a half thick of hero cards with the unspeakable box and all that stuff.
Yep.
And we're getting more heroes whenever the comic book thing comes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot.
So you'll
I
have
forgot
more
about
heroes
that.
from that. So
Yep. Oh, I think I'm also getting unique characters from the was it the Study in Emerald remake?
yeah, I didn't do that, but I
I was
mean,
surprised you didn't, just to have
well,
everything for the characters.
I didn't like the Study of Emerald game very well, and I know this is a different version of it, but I didn't care for
Yeah,
Study of Emerald when I played
I
it
don't
back
even
in the day.
remember what the name of that game was, but yeah, it's an insane amount, and they're all again not Lovecraftian characters, that we
Yeah,
just saw with Arkham Horror. They're historical figures or just random people.
yeah.
Uh, Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, it's like I wish they went the tiles, like maybe not I wish, but it'd be cool if they did the tile size the way they did it, and then they made like the seventh continent, like so everything was like to scale. So like your little character minis were like
Right.
really tiny, and then all the monsters were like huge or something.
But this is
So
CMON. It's all about the minis.
it is all about the minis. Yeah, yep, I guess so. I guess it's not about the tiles. So um yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day they'll fix that. But other than that, yeah, the game's great. It was in my
Yeah,
top 20.
yeah, it's outstanding game.
It was number 12.
Yeah,
So
so I
we're
mean,
right there.
and I'm excited for the season 3 and season 4, because it looks like they've got creative with some of their monster things and stuff too. And there is a combo that we need to try at some point.
Oh, the one that is like broken or something?
Well, the one that is, I think, is impossible to beat. When
Yeah.
you use Dagon out of the unspeakable box and one of the scenarios out of the unspeakable box, and it's
Okay.
yeah, Chad and I played it like 6 or 7 times and couldn't even come close.
Oh my God. Okay.
You like, so it's nuts.
Got it. Nice. Yeah, great pick.
Yep.
All right, my number 3. We're getting up now in the top 3, baby. It rose. This is my highest rising game, I believe. It was number 97 last year, and now it's number 3, and it's a crossover.
Crossover, huh? This list?
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
it's probably going to be Oathsworn then.
Man, you just know me so well. This is why we're an item.
Because I remember you saying it barely hits your top 100 because you just started playing it when the
Yep.
list came out.
Yep, exactly. That's wow. I mean, that's good memory because I was like that it snuck into the top 100, and I think I even said there is no way this game is not rising higher.
Right,
And
right.
boy, oh boy, was I correct. And at this point, I have completed the campaign. It was immaculate the entire way through. This was like one of those very few because sometimes campaign games become kind of a little like, all right, let's just finish it. Or do we really want to finish it? Like, do we really like this game enough? I was sworn I was excited every single time. And it's like for what you get, it's
Hmm.
pretty cheap.
Yeah, for all those
Like,
huge miniatures and stuff. I
yeah,
got the all in second edition and it didn't cost me.
it was like what, 400?
Yeah,
Which,
after
I mean,
shipping. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, and I mean, I will say like, not saying 400 is cheap. That everyone has their own thing, but the amount of content you get because there are 21 chapters. Uh, there is an overarching story, but what's really cool about it's like some older anime where it's like every episode or chapter feels kind of like on its own, but there is an overarching narrative being told. Um, Good. I was worried about she does a different picture for mine. It's like the final boss.
Yeah.
Oops.
I told her just to keep if Oathsworn was on to do this picture.
Okay.
I knew it was gonna
Uh
be at some point.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But every story scenario, because each chapter is broken up, like you said, in story and an encounter, the story is so engrossing. And it helps if you get this game, you get the app, like 100% get the app because the voice acting is just so immersive. And they're very like there were times where I'd be like really uncomfortable with the way things were happening or the narrative that was being told. Uh, it was very, very immersive. But the story, I will say, you do make decisions, and they do a fantastic job of making you like unsure the entire time. You as a player are like, I don't know what to do. But to understand, there's never going to be a decision. Like it doesn't go where it's like maybe we won't fight the monster. You always will have the encounter. It's just the decision making isn't like a branching narrative where your story's going to change. That's a very distinct thing to understand. Other than that, it's extremely well written. Uh, in my overall campaign, I'm gonna try and keep it spoiler free. Um, they we had characters come in, and you can just change characters if you want to. Every character plays different, which is also awesome. Like the Ursus Warbear to the Warden to the Priest, which I actually stayed the Priest the whole time, and they fucking nerfed him with their second edition. Like I was like, I hate this. They buffed pretty much everyone else, and they're like, the Priest's ability is gonna be shit now, because he heals. He's the healer in the game, but he has to hurt himself to heal. And his ability used to be at the upkeep, if you have 3 hit points, you gain one. They changed it to where at upkeep, if you have 1 hit point, you gain one.
Oh,
And I'm
really?
like, well, I'm also getting fucked up by the monster, so can I please? Like, I'd like to heal everyone. Uh, but they know what they're doing. Like, I was still being able to play and heal and stuff. I just wasn't as like, now I was a lot more like, do you really need health? Because
Right.
I'm dying. One thing that you didn't mention, which I know you wanted me to talk about it, was in the fights, somehow, some way, the fact that you get to know exactly what the enemy's gonna do
Hmm.
doesn't help.
Yeah.
Um, like it's not like, oh wow, we get to know what it does. Like KDM or other games where it's like you have no idea what they're doing. It's like this game you can look and be like, hey, that top card is face up the entire time. Here's what he's gonna do. You either look at that and you're like, well, that sucks. Like we can't do anything about it, or you can try your best uh to alleviate the damage, but it's amazing. That is such a cool system because again, you're Oathsworn. You fight giant rats all the time. So you understand their behavior, but it's like shit, like that tail is gonna really still hit me. Um, but the great thing, I think the balance is that you can't ever cancel that.
Right.
Like when you break, you talked about the locations. When you break a location, it's up to you as the players to be like, when do we do it? We
Right.
know what it's gonna, because it's gonna do that card. Like no matter what, that top card is gonna do it. So do we break a location to eventually kill it, like you have to do? And can we weather that next attack? But if we break its location on our turn and we're all done, then we can't prep for the second card, that it's going to do on its turn.
Right.
This game, like, again, this one and my number two, I really, I was, or actually, no, all three. Like, this could easily be my number one if the only slight negative that I have, and it's very, very minor, is this game excels because of those mystery boxes. So when you play the campaign, it's one of the best gaming experiences I've had, including video games. But kind of like playing a video game, and when you go through it, it's not as it's not as like special,
Right.
That's the only reason this one ended up at number three versus my number two and my number one, because it's like, well, nothing is left as a mystery. But that's all alleviated whenever they make new content.
Well, and
So
the other thing I forgot to mention on this also that's kind of neat is because I play two heroes when I play this solo. And then you have you can have the other ones be, I can't remember what they call them. Like the
companions.
companions. Yeah, but so they're just simple. They're still controlled.
Yep.
But they're just simpler versions of it, so it's like, so you could run pure solo, have one character and run three companions, and they have their own deals they do and everything. So
and they're just as good.
Yeah. So I mean that's kind of a neat variation that you can do too, depending on how you want to play this solo or cooperatively or however, you can always have those companions in there to.
And if you're playing with other players and they can't make it or they drop out, okay, well,
just throw the companion.
You just throw in the companion of that character and they work just the same. I mean, they're not quite the same. Like, still an actual character is better, but like we had to do that for our campaign. One person couldn't make it consistently, so it's like, okay, well, your character's still in the game. He's just now the companion.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot to this one. It is fantastic. So that is why it's my number three.
All right, good choice. My number three stayed the same. It was number three last year.
Okay.
It is yet another chip theory game.
Oh, okay.
This was one that was on your list. Not on this list. It was on a list not too awfully long ago.
Oh, okay.
This one went because I like the whole cyberpunk stuff, which kind of gives it away anyway. But this one, the gameplay of this one was unique enough, Burn Cycle, that it turns it into kind of like a stealth game. And
which there are not many of, if any, honestly.
Right. And I love stealth stuff. Like in video games, I like to be the one that sneaks around and picks my deal and stuff. And this one, you are robots and you're sneaking into these corporations to achieve whatever it is, the scenario that you're doing or whatever. And there's guards moving around with different abilities. There's I can't remember what the hell they call the leader guys at the end right now, but something like that.
Oh, you're just talking about like the company?
No, like there's like the big main, like
I think they're wardens.
Wardens. Okay, I couldn't remember. I don't call them anything. I just call them big assholes.
I call them big guys.
But yeah, so this one is get your typical pre-treatment neoprene plastic and chips, and there's a lot going on in this. Like, you set everything up, you pick a corporation, you're going to have a building layout. It's going to be the same layout because it's the same kind of building, but then you're going to have different scenario things that you're doing, and there are several different floors. So you are going to try to find entry, and then you're trying to sneak around and hacking terminals, picking locks, doing different odds and ends. You try not to fight. I mean, you can fight, but it's probably not wise because you really usually aren't that strong. There's a couple of robots that can cause some damage, but then you're also going to make noise, which is going to bring attention. There's just a lot of different stuff that could happen.
Mm.
So you're going to pick there's a whole stack of robots. You get to pick. I play 2 robots when I play solo.
Yeah.
And then this mat works perfectly for that because I just set them,
Yep.
right here on my side.
And the characters, like, I think running 2 for like too many bones can be a lot.
Right.
Running 2 for this one is not as bad.
No, not at all. And then you pick a command module, which is kind of another one of the robots on the flip side. Every robot has a command module side, and you put them up there in the burn cycle deal, and you'll use their ability to different stuff. And you're going to be pulling these chips out, and you'll use these actions because they're going to pop up there and on the burn cycle deal, and those are actions that it will do. The guards and different crap like that, and they'll burn out as you get going. And then you'll need to reset the burn cycle, which could cause a bunch of crazy shit to happen. But then there's also the little mini game of the network over here that you're moving these little pings around, and you follow the lines and do different stuff. And you can gain chips that way. You can gain different kinds of resource things. There's different things you're trying to avoid their stuff. You can get booted from that network. There's just a lot of stuff with this game, and it looks very daunting. Like when I tried teaching this game a few months ago to somebody, they just were sitting there like, what the hell is all this stuff? But with it being a fully cooperative game, and and you sit there and you just play like a round of it and you see what's going on, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then you just kind of go with it, And
funny enough, I showed this to quite a few people. And 2 of them really liked it. But again, it was a little bit kind of like overwhelming. But and then one person I showed it to who I thought would like it, he didn't really care for it.
Really?
So I think it's more of like, you have to like stealth games. If you want to run in, kick the door down, like expect a dungeon crawl.
No.
I mean, I guess there is a bot that is centered around that.
Yeah.
But which would be fun to be like, okay, so I'm gonna be going in to hack, distract them, run in there, just punch a wall down, and the guards are like, oh, it's like, okay, I gotta hack quickly because that's increasing the threat. So you can do it, but the game isn't meant to be played that way.
Well, and you can upgrade your characters. Like you put pegs all over your player deal that lets you upgrade dice you roll and all that different stuff when you do stuff. There's a lot with this game, but I love cyberpunk stuff. I love stealth. So this one just is awesome. And I love this huge playmat. Like the way they set it up is perfect for this game.
It's sexy. Yeah, for sure.
And this is just a top-notch game. I really haven't even messed with the new stuff from their last project yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 of them were mini expansions that basically added just variations to a scenario as well as just more characters, but then new corporation.
Well, and this picture doesn't show it, but they have brass mags, metal mags that magnet to the chips and move and they have it for even the bots now, and everything, and you can.
Yep, you are correct.
It just adds that element to it.
They have it for too many bones for the gear locks. Those brass mags are sexy.
I haven't played it yet with those brass mags.
I haven't either. But yeah, also going back a little bit, every game like I've shown Oathsworn to, they've also gotten it. You and my friend Devin, he ended up picking it all up too. There's just these games, man, that it's like, well, I gotta own it now. It's like, you do. So yeah, good pick, great pick. It was my 22, so still pretty high up.
That'll work.
Okay, my number 2 is new to the list, and I can honestly see this being why'd you wave at me?
I know what it is. You already hinted with it when you were talking.
Oh, I see. Yeah, this could honestly be my number 1 next year, and I kind of at this point I almost messaged you to have your daughter change this because I think it should be at number 1 at this point in time. So
Yeah.
tentatively number 1, but because AI didn't make the change, it's sitting at number 2. Yeah, like I said with Oathsworn, I had a very difficult time deciding which one should be number 2, hell, even number 1. I had this difficult time whenever we were doing top 10 of the year that both these games came out. And this game is actually, I don't know. It is definitely the game that I've spent the largest chunk of money at any given point, like at one time.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering if like Arkham Horror and those probably add up to
Yeah.
being more. But my number 2 is
Yeah.
Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Um, Boy, I think the reason why this beats out Oathsworn again, I'm not even close to fucking finishing this game. This is one that has taken up so much of my time and why I haven't been able to jump into other campaign games because there is a lot to this. This is a like 60-page rule book, that is a bunch of text. Uh, like I'm not even close to beating the first cycle, and the box that I have has 3 cycles with 2 more on the way for the first edition, really. And I have everything for the 12 Sins of Heracles that'll be cut. Like I have everything for this game eventually. Um, Kind of like Shadowborn Games, which I think is who did Oathsworn. Into the Unknown is another company where it's like, how are these your first games? I thought that was KDM for a minute. That's just from the first glance. I was like, oh no, she put Kingdom Death. That's funny. Uh, but it's like, how are these your first games? Like, you have first time designers that come out that it's like, okay, this is okay or this is shit, but it's like, dude, and that's a standalone game. You have these massive games coming out that it's like, how are you doing it? You guys are geniuses. But yeah, funny enough, as I said that, this is very much inspired by Kingdom Death Monster. Like if you've played KDM, you're going to see a lot of similarities, but it's not just a reskin of that. Um, they have this really awesome trademarked system, which is like the inverted paradigm system, where instead of fights going down, like as you take damage, you're weaker, and as the monster takes damage, it's weaker. It's
Mhm.
all flipped. It's as you take damage, you get stronger. As the enemy takes damage, it gets stronger because it has an AI deck and it has a body part location deck. So it's like the AI cards are all leveled 1, 2, and 3. If you damage a body part 1, you swap in a body part 2 and you take out an AI card 1 and put in AI card 2, and those are going to be harder hits. Like they're just it ramps up the fight instead of, tears down the fight. And both are fine. Like with KDM, it's like, okay, it makes sense. We're chopping off body parts of this monster. It's not going to be able to run or do things as it used to. Here, you're fighting these primordials. Like they're the things like the lore is, I think it's called the Eschaton, is like these primordials showed up and killed all the Greek gods and are basically indestructible, except we like mind meld through tech to sink into these titans, which are 30 feet, 30, 80 feet. I always forget how tall they are. And they're the only things that can actually damage the primordials. So that's kind of like the theme. Um, the other thing that I think this elevates it is just the writing is top notch. It's just as good as Tainted Grail stuff. It's also at number 2 because I'm currently playing it. But the writing is fantastic, and the great thing is it will be going to Foreteller. So
Cool.
yeah, and they did a sample, and I was like, this is what this game needs because when you're reading out loud, which is I'm usually the one reading, I don't really retain or I can't get it as immersed like I was able to with like Oathsworn. So Aeon Trespass, once that gets in there, it's just gonna be even more immersive. Uh yeah, there's just so much to this game, so many different branching paths and stuff, which is kind of again why I beat it over Oathsworn at this point because you just make so many decisions. You come across different random events that you just experience, and some of them are rest and relaxation, which is just for the characters. Some are adventures that are within the world, and then the rest is the main story. um it's amazing. Like I really, and they also have, unlike KDM, where you just kind of roll, and what you roll is what you get. They have a really cool fate system where it's like, hey, you roll dice, you can spend fate to re-roll, but a lot of attacks are like, what's your fate value? If your fate value is high, it's going to be a negative to you. So at least it's like you can decide, okay, you know what, my fate's at 6. That's pretty high. I'm not going to re-roll this, even though I'd like to hit. I'm going to take the miss. You still rely on dice, but at least it gives you some agency to re-roll.
Right.
Yeah, like this game is insane. The minis are awesome. Like it's basically better KDM in every way. Like in my opinion, I love the sci-fi Greek, alternate mythology that they've thrown in here. Again, I think you can, there are 80 days in the first cycle. If you don't beat the campaign by the 80th day, then you lose. I think I'm on day 20 something, so I'm a fourth of the way to potentially losing.
Right.
But yeah, they have a lot of really cool stuff that I'm intrigued about the entire time. So that's my number 2, Aeon Trespass Odyssey.
All right. Yeah, I made the decision to go. I wasn't going to get this and Oathsworn, so I chose Oathsworn since I had played it and knew I liked it. So
yeah, that's fair. It is also a cheaper barrier to entry to get into Oathsworn. Yeah, and like I said, it's like I was skipping between this one and Madara with my friend Devin, but we'd forget the rules for one and then remember. And so every time we were going back and forth, it was basically like, okay, we focused on Oathsworn, finished that out, focused on Madara, finished that out, and now we're focusing on Aeon Trespass Odyssey to play out. So yeah, like, and I do like, I don't know when it's happening, but there will be a video where him and I are going to do a discussion on like a versus kind of like Aeon Trespass Odyssey versus KDM on different categories. So look for that. That'll be exciting. Because he has everything for KDM, literally everything for it. So perfect guy to make a comparison video for. So yeah, that is my number 2, ATO.
all right. My number 2 was my number 1 last year.
Ooh,
it fell out of my top spot.
It did. Wow.
By one number. And it's a crossover from this list.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say Too Many Bones.
Wrong.
Really? Well, oh, Marvel Champions.
Yeah.
There it is.
So Marvel Champions slipped just a little bit, not because I haven't played it, because my number 1 I've played more. This one I was counting as you were talking about Aeon Trespass, but there are 50 heroes out right now for this game.
Oh wow, you actually looked it up, huh?
I counted. There's 50.
Dang.
50.
50.
I'm just like, holy crap.
Wow. I did not realize that.
Yeah, and I haven't counted the bad guys yet, but I was just counting because how many bad guys came in the core set? There was, I can't remember. I mean, but
I don't remember either. Red Skull, no, the Red Skull wasn't in there. Rhino, I don't know. I haven't looked at the core set in forever.
Yeah, but anyway, I counted the heroes. There's 50 heroes, and there's a shit of bad guys too. So there's probably at least the equal amount, maybe close. I bet
if every box set has 5, and I think there's at least 5 boxes, so you're at 25 villains already.
Right. Yeah, because then there's the scenario packs that have them. So I'm not going to sit and count them right now. I have the thing pulled up, but anyway, there's 50 heroes, shit ton of bad guys. We've played through several of the campaign boxes where we still have several to play.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all been fun. You know, the heroes are, like you said, I mean, that you can choose a different aspect. I like to deck build with these decks. The precons are fine. I mean, we've ran precon when we've done the campaign boxes all the time, and they work. Some of them take a little longer to pick up, just like the last one. It wasn't the last one, but it was the one where I had a Spectrum.
That's
but that was.
Is that not the one we're currently doing?
No, because we were getting ready to start another one, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
We started the Spider-Man one now.
Yep, you're correct.
Sinister Motives. But anyway, you know, it took me a little bit to figure her out, but once I figure her out, she's very good.
Yeah.
So we had her and I think Warlock going, and we were just wrecking shit with those once we got the groove of those.
Yeah.
But you know, they're all so different. They're so creative. They have slowed down putting packs out, but I don't mind that because that makes me
Hmm.
think they're not just going to push out similar shit.
Yeah.
They're actually working to get consistent stuff, you know. And I think we just got charged for the next campaign box that,
Apocalypse.
yeah,
Yep.
that's going to be coming out. And God, I mean, there's so much with this game, and if you know, you can run precons all day every day, but
Yep.
if you want to start deck building a little bit, this of all their LCGs that they have, the deck building of this one is the easiest
Yeah.
because like half of the deck you use is pretty much already, it has to be what that character is, your
Hmm.
character's deck, and then you just go from there. um and it's challenging, and you know, it's this, there isn't much more I can say than what you said. I mean,
Yeah.
this was a home run for them. It got me to sell off all my other Marvel card game stuff.
Same. Yeah.
um and this one is awesome to play solo. I play two character solo when I play this.
Yeah. I
um
usually run one.
yeah, I run two just because I run into the, because so many, not so many, there's several of the characters are support style
Correct.
characters
That is correct. Yeah.
unless you build them differently. So
Hmm.
I don't want to play a solo only if they're just pretty much support, because then
Yeah.
you know, I run two that way. If one is support, then I have a heavy hitter,
Hmm.
you know, too. And but yeah, I mean, it's an awesome one. It only fell mainly because I've played my number one more.
Yeah.
And and yeah, like I said, 50 fucking heroes.
That's
I mean,
insane.
it's
Wow.
crazy.
All right.
I'll
Good
count I'll
pick.
count the bad guys while you're doing your number one.
Okay. Well, my number one, like I said, might actually be number two now. But it was number one last year, and it's number one the year before. Um, and they actually, funny enough, I'm actually even more surprised that it might even slip a little bit because they just released the sequel, and I've actually completed the sequel. Um, I actually just finished the campaign for it with this one. So my number one, do you have a guess?
Was it the number one last year?
It was, yeah.
Okay, then I know. I just
Yeah,
sold this.
you did. Yeah,
Yep.
you did. So my
Yep.
number one is Sleeping Gods. Now, this could also be Distant Skies. I would actually probably put Distant Skies here because that's the sequel. Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about a game that is basically the best board game version of a video game, it's probably this one. This is so open world. Um, really cool, like I think it's 1950s setting where you just are transported into this magical realm. And from the get-go, it's like, hey, here's some quests that to start out with, that kind of give you a general idea of where to go, but it doesn't tell you exactly where. And you just explore. Like Sleeping Gods, the first one, had a basically a timer on it. Like each time that you went through an event deck, that you did that 3 times and that ended the game. Distant Skies kind of already tells you what to do. Like like, hey, this is what you need to do to finish the campaign. So it's a lot more streamlined, but that doesn't railroad you in any way. You are still more than welcome to just be like, okay, starting the game, let's go east. Why? I don't know. Let's just explore over there and see what's happening. Um, Distant Skies improved on a lot of systems, particularly combat, as well as just how to use action cards. It feels a lot more maybe deck buildy, especially with the combat. Uh, you're managing less, like there are 4 characters instead of 8, and that but the characters aren't as unique. You kind of create them yourselves. And then this one, the characters had specific level up abilities, so both definitely have their differences, but at its core, it is a pure sandbox game. And I know a lot of games throw that out, and it's like, oh no, it's a sandbox, you can do whatever you want. It's like, right, but not really. Here, it's like, no, it's a sandbox, you can do whatever you want. Yes, I can. Like, you start on space 2 in this picture, and nothing is stopping you from going to any map element,
Right.
barring some quests you might not have. You might come across a door. It's like, hey, do you have this keyword? No? Well, you can't open it. Okay, well, let's try and figure out how to get the keyword. Or because they have a map on the back, you can write that down, need keyword open. And once you finally get it, you can be like, oh, now we can go see what that door is. The writing is pretty good. Like, I think ATO, Oathsworn, Tainted Grail, those have better writing. But this is still good, done by Ryan Lockett. So I think the writing it's good. Like, it's not mediocre, kind of like Aeon's End writing. So I still get invested in the world. Really just want to see the sheer amount of content that's in here. So yeah, like, I mean, honestly, it's still amazing. And I think more of my trepidation on why it should be number one is mainly because I haven't ever done a second campaign for original Sleeping Gods. And the way the second campaign kind of ended for Distant Skies had me wanting a little bit more. But I still had a great time, and it's more of like, okay, well, let's just like, you could just play it again and see completely new stuff. This game has so much legs to it that
Yeah.
I still absolutely love it. So yeah, that is my number one, Sleeping Gods and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies.
I'll take your word for it. I sold this so that I could buy Chronicles of Drunagor.
Oh, well, hopefully you like it.
Yeah. All right. There are 42 villains, by the way.
Okay, wow, that's
So
insane, including the new 5 that'll come with Apocalypse.
I haven't counted Apocalypse
Well, I'm assuming there's
because
5.
it wasn't on my list. Yeah. So
Oh,
when
okay.
you'll have 47.
Yep.
So
Wow.
pretty,
So
pretty
damn, they kept them pretty close.
Yeah. All right. My number one, you probably know.
Well, now I know because I thought it was your number 2, so I'm guessing your number 1 is Too Many Bones.
It is.
Nice.
This one, because we played it.
Where was this last year?
It was 4.
Okay.
So like my 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all the same. They all stayed at 4.
They just kind of shuffled. Nice.
Yeah, my 4 was number 2. My 3 stayed the same. My 1 went to 2, and my 4 went to 1.
Nice.
So they're all just in this one, because I'd played it a lot, and then I took some time off because I was playing it so much. Then we played that Unbreakable stuff, however many months ago, and that kind of got me back into it again. So I've been playing it more, and this one, just like what you said, because this was your number 9, I think.
It was my number 9. Yep.
Yeah. There's just so much cool shit with this game, and even though the story isn't like the greatest with it, like the RPG elements of this are awesome. The gear locks are all completely are awesome. When you get item cards, the item cards are whimsical and cool and have some humor to them, some of them, and it just makes sense. And I'm curious what it's going to be like to play, with the brass mags, what it's going to look like on the deal. But there's so much out, and I think they're pretty much done with this now. Unless they do promos here and there for it. But when they put that the Unbreakable stuff out and Riffle and stuff like that, they've kind of got
literally a fucking deck of cards.
I know. It's crazy. And I have played all of them at this point. And it all fits in the trove chest. One way or another. They're like I watched their video, and it's like I still can't get mine to go exactly what theirs is, but it all fits.
Yeah.
And
you gotta get creative a little bit.
Yeah. And I don't know, man. This game just hits right.
Sure.
It has the dice randomness, but then when you hit the bones, you can pile those up and get use them for cool stuff, so you're not always totally lost. There's a lot of bad guys.
Some characters' backup plans are actually part of their strategy.
Right. And when you do there's a lot of bosses, tyrants out there, a lot of different baddies.
Oh, tyrants. Yeah, that's what they're called. I was calling them baddies.
Yeah, baddies
Are the
minions.
minions. Yeah.
And I don't know. This one's just awesome for me, and I love chip theory anyway. And and I don't know. This is just
Sure.
so cool. And
Yeah.
this one does have a bigger learning curve than a game like, let's say, Burn Cycle or in the Hoplomachus, because I mean you do have a double-sided freaking sheet for each character that you have terms and stuff, but it rewards picking a Gearloc and
sticking
playing
with it.
several games with them for a while and learning that.
Yeah. I mean, the nuances of learning it against the bosses, against the characters the Gearlocs you're playing with. Yeah, no, this one definitely is extensive, but this is a lifestyle game for sure.
Oh yes. So yeah, that's my number one. Too Many Bones.
Awesome. Yeah, great pick. And that is it, everyone. That is our top 100 games of all time. I hope you enjoyed. Stick with us next year because we're going to be doing it again. Let us know what you think of these games in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.